the wacky weekend weather.
Steve Martin is a wild and crazy Los Angeles TV weatherman who discovers that L.A. is even wilder and crazier than he is in L.A. Story, one of the new movies we'll review this week on Siskel and Ebert. And we'll also have a special report on the internal struggle between Robin Williams, the actor, and Robin Williams, the stand-up comic. I'm Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times.
And I'm Gene Siskel of the Chicago Tribune. And our first film is Steve Martin's comedy, L.A. Story, a film that I had extraordinary expectations for, and they weren't met. The idea of Steve Martin tackling the phoniness of Los Angeles is just a wonderful idea. I just didn't laugh that much at his jokes. The problem, the jokes are all in service of a dreary love story. Martin plays a silly TV weatherman with a girlfriend, Mary Lou Henner, who is cheating on him with his agent.
My agent, Frank? And this is how I find out? You tell me?
Oh, he isn't happy about it either. We just decided I should tell you.
God, I thought he was only supposed to take 10%.
That 10% joke about an agent isn't fresh, but into Martin's life comes a young, upbeat valley girl, nicely played by Sarah Jessica Parker. He tries to take her to a fancy restaurant, but he has trouble making a reservation.
I'm a weatherman. Yes, I'm on TV. Renting. I just sold a condo. Yes, in this soft market. Well, I don't see how that's any bit. In the low 50s. Yeah, I could meet you there at 3. I have Visa and I have MasterCard. They all have Visa and MasterCard.
I think what Mr. Pardue is looking for is more than a promise to pay. I think he's looking for a kind of depth in your financial scene.
Eventually, Sarah Jessica Parker convinces Martin to go away with her for the weekend. The only thing fresh about the movie is her energy.
Go away with me.
I can't. Don't you see? I would just be using you to get even with her for going away with him.
I don't mind.
Let's go.
Hey! Woo!
Now, the love story involves the ridiculous conceit of a freeway traffic sign with a mind of its own that spells out what it's thinking to Steve Martin, and eventually it tells him what it really wants to do in life is direct a movie. Another tired joke. L.A. Story doesn't devastate an awfully easy target, Los Angeles, Southern California culture, and that's why it didn't work for me.
You think it's implausible that a highway sign could talk to you?
I don't think it's funny that a highway sign does talk to you.
I don't know when I've been more in disagreement with you about a comedy than about this one, which I like from beginning to end, and which I think is a masterpiece of tone, which takes this love story, which is, I think, a sweet little love story and not dumb at all, and manages to combine it with things that are slapstick, things that are pure fantasy, things that are wild imaginations, things that are subtle, things that are social satire, and all at the same time keeping all of those balls in the air at the same time. This is a very good movie. It reminded me of work by people like Keaton and Tati, who were able to find kind of a sweet middle ground. I don't know what you were looking for here.
Well, I was looking for laughter, obviously, and I didn't think, I think, I'm just repeating myself, I think that the targets here are not hit in a funny way. I went through a whole bunch of clips. Now, these were obviously supplied to us. A lot of people think these are funny.
Well, I mean,
the 10% joke isn't funny. The restaurant having to require a financial statement, not funny.
Wait. Let's talk about the restaurant,
Sure.
because you played that clip and then you said nothing funny there, and I
Right.
was sitting here thinking, well, I laughed. I thought it was funny. I thought it was hilarious. They want his whole entire background in order to get him into this restaurant. What about the automated teller machine joke, where you have 2 lines?
I think, you know what that would be a better joke
Where?
for? New York City. In other words, New York City, mugging on the street is funny. L.A. probably doesn't have.
Well, then the problem is not with the joke, it's with the city. Geographical
he picked it.
difficulty
He
here.
picked
No, I
it. That's
disagree
not my
with you.
problem.
I think this is an extremely well-made and an extremely funny movie. It's just filled. It's so densely packed with detail after detail after detail. It's not just 3 or 4 things. It's everything.
You bet. I mean, he shoots 100 times and hits maybe 5 for me.
I think we're in complete disagreement here.
Right.
Coming up next, Julia Roberts stars as a battered female victim in Sleeping with the Enemy.
I had a husband. God, no. That would make you a monster.
That's Julia Roberts, trapped in the Marriage from Hell. And Roberts, who became one of the hottest actresses in America last year after her wonderful work in the box office hit Pretty Woman, has a new film out now named Sleeping with the Enemy, and it's a real disappointment, a lame brain thriller that starts out seriously and then degenerates into one horror movie cliche after another. The movie opens well with a chilling portrait of a marriage based on fear. Roberts is married to a rich investment counselor, well played by Patrick Bergen, and he is a perfectionist who likes to slap her around when she doesn't get things precisely right. There's promise in the early scenes which create a chilling portrait of an abusive marriage.
You sneaked off inexplicably.
I didn't sneak off.
Need I remind you how I worried?
No. You reminded me enough the night I came back.
After that good beginning, though, the movie turns into a trashy melodrama as Roberts fakes her own death by drowning and then moves far away from her husband, all the way to Iowa, where Kevin Anderson plays the drama teacher, a nice guy who lives next door.
I guess I'm just really afraid.
What?
I'm never getting my life back together.
Goes without saying, of course, that Bergen follows her to Iowa, and the movie turns into a grade B woman in danger film filled with false alarms and loose ends. If the suspense and danger scenes at the end of this movie had been done well, I might not have minded them quite so much, even though they betray the opening scenes even so. But this is one of those movies where with every scene there at the end, you're sitting there noticing all the loose ends, the unanswered questions, the impossibilities, the things that couldn't have happened that way, the stuff that's done even though somebody wouldn't have known to do it, and all the stupid mistakes that the characters make. The screenplay of Sleeping with the Enemy is a particularly sloppy job of writing which recycles all of the standard cliches but raises a lot more questions than it answers.
That's pretty much my reaction, except I would give credit to Kevin Anderson for a really interesting performance in this picture of the guy next door, and he doesn't play him like a hero. He plays him like kind of a shy guy who sees a lovely person come next door to him, and he knows there's a problem there, and he tries tentatively. That's a wasted performance.
Kevin Anderson is good. He was good in Miles from Home a couple of years ago. Patrick Bergen is very good. Julie Roberts does what she can, but come on. I mean,
agree.
How about the scene where she gets back home and finds out, we find out earlier her husband likes to have all the cans in the shelf arranged perfectly correctly.
Right.
She gets back home, she looks, the cans are mixed up, looks again, they're all arranged. So that's what a that's what a killer does.
Right.
He sneaks into the kitchen and rearranges the cans in between stalking somebody around a relatively small house.
There are worse things than that in the picture. I mean, the last sequence about the killer that doesn't die. I mean, again, where is the pride of the filmmaker? I know that if I'm directing a thriller, that it's about time to drop the second grab.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
The guy is dead, you know he's not dead.
I mean,
you know he's coming back for one more shot.
Also, I must tell you that when I saw, Julie Roberts is one of the sunniest, loveliest presents to hit the movies in a long, long time. And when she got slapped and punched early in the picture, part of my heart sank in the sense of this. I've seen so many warm, winning actresses feel they have a need to play an abused character to make somehow that makes them serious.
Well,
she's so talented, she doesn't need it.
If they had a point to make about wife beating, about abusive marriages, that's one thing.
Okay.
But to use it as a hook for exploitation, that's something else.
They're all better than this movie screenplay.
Coming up next, Jodie Foster in The Silence of the Lambs, her first film since winning the Oscar for The Accused.
What did you mean by fledgling killer? Are you saying that he's killed
Soft palate of a murder victim. The body was in the Elk River, Virginia.
Buffalo Bill, isn't it?
I'm afraid I can't tell you any more about that.
That's Jodie Foster as an FBI trainee on the trail of a serial killer in The Silence of the Lambs, a depressingly brutal thriller that I found completely lacking in redemptive quality. So I sat there thinking, why are all these talented people involved in this project? Oscar winner Jodie Foster works for an FBI boss who apparently believes that it takes one to know one, and so she pays a visit to another serial killer to track one. First, she is warned to stay clear of him.
Do not touch the glass. Do not approach the glass. You can't see nothing but soft paper. No pencils or pens. No staples or paper clips in his paper.
Both killers have cheap nicknames. The one she is looking for is nicknamed Buffalo Bill. Anthony Hopkins stars as her source of information, the frightening Dr. Hannibal, the cannibal Lecter, who likes to eat his victims' body parts.
I'm offering you a psychological profile of Buffalo Bill based on the case evidence. I'll help you catch him, Terry.
There is a sporting quality to this story that I found distasteful as Foster again visits with Hannibal the cannibal.
What is your worst memory of childhood?
Death of my father.
Tell me about it and don't lie right now.
Eventually, Silence of the Lambs degenerates into a standard monster-in-the-house movie as Foster catches up with Buffalo Bill in his dungeon-like home where a young woman is held captive and terrorized in a well. The horrors of female abuse are too much with us, I think, now to be trifled with anymore in the movies. We had this complaint about the picture involving Julia Roberts. I have it again here. I didn't learn a thing about serial killers from this movie. A much more honest, less exploitive film on the same subject was last year's Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer. By contrast, The Silence of the Lambs is a star-studded freak show directed by the usually enormously talented Jonathan Demme, who I think for the first time in his career has picked a surprisingly trashy project.
Well, this is a tough film to review because, of course, in terms of its subject matter, one can easily target it as you have. And also, I think that the ending doesn't really work. Once she gets into the house of Buffalo Bill, it does become a standard who's behind this door, who's going to jump on me from the shadows. The first part of this film, though, Gene, is terrifically effective, partially because of the real tension, the dynamic interaction between Jodie Foster and Anthony Hopkins. It's one of the most peculiar and fascinating relationships I've seen in a movie in a long time. Hopkins is very good here. Foster is very good here. The dialogue is at a very high level of intelligence, and the movie works not perhaps in the same way as Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer, but effectively. And I think that you're really shortchanging a lot of skill and craft and art that went into this film.
No, you know, sometimes you say, I think you blew it on this one. I think you're being too easy on this picture in this way. He is presented, the Anthony Hopkins character is presented as this big evil thing, and we're going down there to see them, a journey into hell and all that. And frankly, he was so pumped up, and the music was so pumped up at such a high level that I
worked for me. It worked.
Well, then you're easy, because for me, I thought, oh, come on. A guy who's truly frightening doesn't need, you know, a huge organ playing in the background. I didn't buy it at all.
This is the movies. What did you want? A documentary, black and white, television, shoot it on video?
The reason why Henry, the Portrait of a Serial Killer works is because these people, my intuition, I don't have any first-hand knowledge, these people tend to be kind of dull.
Well, they're two different kinds of movies, and you're using one to criticize the other.
Yes, we always do that, Roger. We say better pictures on the same subject.
Why can't you criticize this on its own terms instead of saying what it is?
I'm criticizing on its own terms. I wasn't compelled by anybody except, I suppose, the Jodie Foster character as a strong woman.
Come on, a great performance.
Not a great performance, a decent performance.
Anthony Hopkins,
no,
great.
I thought that was way overplayed.
When we come back, we'll take a look at the internal struggle between Robin Williams, the comedian, and Robin Williams Wednesday, and there's a good chance that one of them will go Robin Williams for what I think is the best performance of his career as a neurologist in Awakenings, the story of a doctor who's briefly able to bring chronic patients out of the deep trances they've fallen into. If it happens, this will be Williams' third nomination. He was also nominated for Dead Poets Society and Good Morning Vietnam. But the movie industry is still asking itself, is Robin Williams really an actor or really a comedian?
Because they do horrible things, little babies. They go up to the dog and go, doggy. You can see the dog looking at him like, oh. You'd be dead if you were a cat. But since they love you,
This is what made Robin Williams popular and famous, his high-energy stand-up routines as he played one character after another. He could do strange voices, he could do the bizarre and the ridiculous, and he seemed like the perfect choice for his first starring film role as Popeye in Robert Altman's 1980 version of the classic cartoon.
I'm sorry to do this, but enough is enough.
His gift for characters and accents worked again in 1984 when Williams played a Soviet musician defecting to the U.S. Moscow on the Hudson, an essentially serious role where Williams was required to be an actor, not a comic impressionist.
You must to help me. I want political asylum.
I'm a security officer.
Robin Williams' big box office and critical breakthrough came in Good Morning Vietnam, where the story of an off-the-wall disc jockey called for both his acting and his stand-up comedy talent.
Thank you for that lovely tune. That funky music will drive us till the dawn.
In this one, the role itself accounted for just about any kind of routine, but he admits an over-reliance on his comic side has hurt his work as a serious actor. Do you have a real is it sort of a crutch with you sometimes that you go into
A dangerous thing.
into material from time to time?
Yeah, it can even be, the material is a dangerous word. It can also be stuff from my act which can shine out, and it can sound like a piece of material rather than a character.
That crutch was visible in Dead Poets Society, where Williams played an English teacher dropping out of character at moments like this.
Now, many of you have seen Shakespeare done very much like this. "O Titus, bring your friend hither." But if any of you have seen Mr. Marlon Brando, no, with Shakespeare can be different. France, Romans, countrymen.
Yeah, there's sometimes when I broke into a character thing, and even that was really toned down from what was left. You know, originally we tried a lot more of that, and we tried a long piece, and that was just a little piece that left. Is it a token thing to see? Yeah, to try and find some humor there, to, you know, put it in. Yeah, it was an effort to kind of, you know, kick it up a little bit.
Yet even during an interview, Williams is constantly reverting to comedy as if he can't get by without it.
You'd become maybe a manic depressive lounge singer, just to kind of, let me buy you a drink. Hey, let me buy myself a drink from you. Just to kind of get through the day.
There almost seems to be a struggle going on there between the actor and the stage comedian. Williams is a completely disciplined and convincing actor, however, in Awakenings, where he plays a shy, dedicated doctor.
And yet,
A reflex.
if she batted it away, I might call it a reflex. But she didn't. As you can see, she caught it.
What was the part of this role that you found the hardest?
Stripping away all gimmicks, putting away any tendency, which happens in the past, to go for the line, to try and find laugh, you know, and to basically let it be reactive and empirical, to watch, to observe, to let the process take place, which is what neurology is about anyway, because it's like the theoretical physics of medicine. You're only dealing with observations most of the time, and to let that build.
What we're really talking about here is a man who has an embarrassment of talent, who is not only a brilliant stand-up comic, but also now a gifted actor. And what he demonstrates in Awakenings, I think, is real growth and maturity. He's no longer so insecure. He needs the reassurance of laughter in a role that doesn't really call for any.
Well, I think it comes down to a case-by-case basis. He is enormously talented, and until you go back in Popeye, one of his first films, the role is just perfect for that comic talent. And then you got Good Morning Vietnam 4 years later. It's perfect. I think he can do that. I found him a little bit mannered in Awakenings. I saw him playing the nervous guy, the shy guy. That's we debated that before. I just think that the best thing he can do for himself is work with the most strong directors, which he will now get. He's in big hits one after another now. And I think we'll judge him, I'll judge him now as anybody else. He has done a better job than most stand-up comics in becoming an actor. If you think about it, look at Richard Pryor, for example.
Yes, but on the other hand, look at Steve Martin, who has made a similar transition from a movie like The Jerk to some recent stuff that, well, L.A. Story I like better than you did, but also movies...
Roxanne is a great film, and you got All of Me.
Yeah. So what you have in both of these cases are guys who, in a way, were victims of their early success, and the people knew what to expect from them and wanted that. And I think in Williams' case, more than in Martin's case, he felt like, well, maybe if I give it to you, then maybe that'll be kind of a safety net. Now you see him working without a net, and it's fun to watch.
It sure is. Coming up next, our video pick of the week featuring another actor who is a shoo-in for an Academy Award nomination. On home video is Longtime Companion, the moving drama of the AIDS epidemic, which managed to develop considerable power by telling its story so matter-of-factly, as a group of young men in New York find themselves overrun by a deadly disease they've never heard of. In the film's best scene, Bruce Davison tries to give his lover a peaceful farewell. Davison, the Golden Globe winner in the supporting actor category, would appear to be a natural Oscar nominee next week, and his performance is quietly powerful as this entire film, Longtime Companion. I highly recommend it. And now let's recap our reactions to the movies on this show. A split vote on Steve Martin's comedy, L.A. Story. Roger thinks it's a comic masterpiece. I didn't think the jokes were that funny. 2 thumbs down for the woman as victim thriller, Sleeping with the Enemy. A split vote on The Silence of the Lambs, with Jodie Foster chasing a serial killer. Roger thought it was a skillful exercise in horror. I thought it was just filled with cheap thrills. So I didn't care for anything, and you like 2 pictures a lot.
Silence of the Lambs and L.A. Story, both worth going to the movies to see. That's it for this week. Next week we'll be back with our special annual program called the Academy Award Surprises, where we look at the nominations, which come out on Wednesday, and talk about who got included and who got left out. That's next week, and until then, the balcony is closed.